Welcome back to the Iron Insight. Thank you for starting your week off right with the Iron Insight every Monday morning at 4 a.m. I'm Bryn Welds,
And I'm Andrew Nichols with Southern Leatherworks.
and today we're sitting down with Codie Aljets. Did I say that last name right?
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
Good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Oh, of
Pretty
course.
good. So, how long have you been doing metal art?
Like officially, like not quite 3 years. I've kind of dabbled for quite a while, but it was always just like a side thing. Gifts, things like that. I've made some signs for some friends. Uh, about 10 years ago, when I moved to Colorado, I got into a little more and worked for a blacksmith shop and did a lot of high-end stuff there. And honestly, I didn't really learn a lot of the smithing aspects. I got kind of basic dirtiness of it, but I was more of an assembly guy there, and we were making a lot of furniture and things like that. So the main guy was doing a lot of the smithing, and then he'd pass that on, and we'd assemble beds and furniture and handrails and all the stuff. So,
Where were you at before Colorado?
I grew up in Southern Illinois. I've been all over the place, but outside St. Louis, I grew up in a town, 150 people, super small, didn't have much of anything, farm community. My family was owned mechanic shop and body shop, so grew up in that. We were kind of told we needed to work from 8 years old on, and usually most of us, when you turn 16, you got the hell out of there because you're tired of working for your family. And most of us circled back. But I've kind of been all over. I've lived in California. I've lived in Tennessee. Been in Colorado 12 years now. Different jobs took me different places. I was in sales before, so a total different world, total different realm. But luckily learned, and I'll say luckily now, but in 2008, when a lot of the stuff hit the fan there, I quit chasing the money, quit chasing that sort of career path, and went for more fulfillment and a quality of life than running for the money. I mean, I made more money at 26 years old than I've made my whole life, in the last 18 years. But it just wasn't worth it. I didn't want to be on the road 200 days a year and sitting in hotels all the time and eating unhealthy. It's hard to keep a relationship, family. So we moved to Colorado chasing a quality of life and where I wanted to be, and my wife was willing to follow me.
Huh. And
Uh,
you were a firefighter, right?
yeah, I was last several years before I started this. I was full-time firefighter. I had volunteered for, I don't know, 8 or 9 years before that, and kind of got started to the point that they didn't have a choice but to hire me once it went from like a full volunteer situation to paid. I chased a lot of certifications and got, I was a live fire instructor, and I was even instructor, trainer for the trainer, and I specialized in automotive extrication for that, mainly because of my background. I knew the internals of the cars to an extent. Everything's changing quickly now, but I saw that stuff real easy and kind of knew the hazards. So, which was also a lot of fun, like just cutting cars and tearing cars apart and being the person to show people like what not to do and what to do.
Yeah.
So.
So before metal art, you had some welding background from the auto body shop, mechanic shop.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in a farm community, body shop in the last, I don't know, I'd say like 30 years plus, it's not as much welding anymore as like epoxies. And then there's crush, there's actual impact points and crush points. So the epoxies are designed into it. So a lot of that's just like spot welding, small welding. We didn't do custom fabrication or anything like that. So there wasn't a lot of that kind of stuff in it. But growing up in the farm community, everybody had a Jenny welder or repair stuff in the fields, and you got kind of the down and dirty, gist of it. And most of that was arc, just old school farmers. And then throughout the years, I always played with it, and then it really until I got into Colorado, kind of the same thing, just like following what I wanted to do and kind of trying to push my passions where I wanted them to go. It just became more and more a part of my life. So I blacksmith shop, and then I traveled for a company. We did playground sculptures, and for that one, I actually had to be like structural certified, and they were only like 3/8 and half-inch billet welds, nothing big as far as testing and stuff. But that was traveling a lot too. And then once my son was born in 2016, I just didn't want to travel anymore. I wanted to be with my family. I was 36 years old at that time, and I'd been traveling since I was 17. Ran college ski trips and all these things that just kept me on the road, which is amazing. And got to see a lot of area of the country and meet a lot of really cool people that I still can't stay in contact with. But um, it's just kind of cycled around, and once I had that opportunity and perspective change that I had in 2020, I just decided, let's take the opportunity and do what I was kind of saving for like my retirement, or that's what I was building up to do. When I made the switch, I didn't even have like drywall in my garage. I just had like a bare bones, post beam, Cleary home garage type deal. Um, and I've just been learning so much now that it's just full time. I'm sure you guys can relate once you get into something new, and they say spend 100 hours, like you become a professional, and 100 hours doesn't even touch it. I don't think.
No, no way.
So yeah, I mean, the welding part of it is just now that it's been something around, and now I'm just fully focusing on it. And right now I'm like fully focused on TIG. Austin and Bo came back in April, I think it was, and we did a bunch of filming for ESOB and stuff with the Volt. And part of what I had reached out for was just hands-on education from Austin. You can watch as many videos as you want and so on, but I'm just a person that if I see somebody do it and they kind of tell me how to tweak my stuff, then I can run with it from there.
Right. We had Bo. Yeah, we had Bo on the podcast right before they went out and did that, and he was like, "When's this episode coming out?" And I was like, "Oh, it won't be for like 4 weeks." And he was like, "All right, so I can say it. We're gonna go down a mountain with the Volt."
Yo,
Stuff like
I said I
that.
listened to that one for sure. It was crazy. It was real fun to watch those guys get on the mountain. Bo is like a ex pro snowboarder. Like he
Yep.
was like X Games quality type guy. Uh, so he hadn't snowboarded in like 10 years. And like first run, he's trying to throw like 360s like within the first 10 feet. So it was super fun to watch those guys get out there and get after it and like give them some opportunity that Bo hadn't had in a long time and Austin rarely gets.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. Um, what was it? Were you welding brass to copper with?
We did all sorts of stuff. Some of my art is like reclaim. Some of it's new material. Like right now, this eagle I'm working on is all sheet bronze. Went and sourced that out of a place in Denver, and that was kind of the progression I wanted to go with because I'm doing like stainless to bronze and then bronze to bronze right now. And I've got like a Harley Davidson tank that we were working on that I was going to do all brass, and that's what we were messing with Austin as well. But man, it's nasty. I think I'm probably going to switch it to bronze just because of the off gassing of that brass and stuff. And it's like reclaimed kick plates and stuff, so there's probably something nasty on it or impregnated on it. We tried to clean it all off, but um, I've got a fume extractor and stuff. But in the 6 months of the winter, I've got my shop closed because I live in a super cold area. So um, I'm just trying to be smarter about that health factor than I was in the past.
Yeah, you're a cancer survivor, right?
Yeah, I'll actually be 4 years into this month, which is kind of crazy because every year you make it past your resection or whatever, however you get through it. The numbers get better and better. They don't, the statistics of it aren't something you want to focus on. That's for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, even like getting through my stuff, they gave me like an 8% chance to live for 5 years, and I'm probably healthier than I've been in 20 years now, but that's just been a choice of of making a lot of changes, you know, mentally, physically, diet, all the stuff. You know, I'm a Midwest boy. I love meat and potatoes, and I rarely get it. You know, it's tough. You know.
How has it changed your perspective and outlook on life?
You know, it's just like anything, you got to keep conscious about it, even though you think like, oh, you've been through that, like, you know, everything's got to be great, but you know, there's repercussions of it. You know, I've got physical repercussions for my surgery still yet 4 years out. And, um, you know, I think I just constantly remind myself, like, if I'm having a bad day, I'm that guy. I actually have the picture of my cancer in my shop hanging up. And if I'm having a bad day, I just like look at that because that was like the worst day, right? Um, but you know, sometimes I need that reminder. You know, I just don't. When time's not guaranteed, you know, I wanted to be with my family. I wanted to have that time with them. And my boy has just turned 8. Luckily, he wasn't old enough, or I think he kind of knows what went on, but he doesn't know how serious it was for dad. Um, so I just really focus on that kind of stuff right now, and really focus on, you know, like I said, I made a switch, and was good financially, good with benefits, and I gave it all up to follow my passion. And it, you know, being a metal artist is not the easiest career path. uh, but I love it. You know, my family's out of town now, and you know, even today, you know, I was supposed to go on a dirt bike ride to Aspen with some friends, and it's like, you know, 3.5 hours each way through the mountains. Super good day with the boys. But I'm like focused on trying to make this happen, and it's a juggle, right? Like you want to make your career path and you want to be successful, but you know, when my boy wants to come make something, I just got to stop what I'm doing and make it with him. You know, he wanted to make a feather the other day, so I just laid my tools down, set everything aside, and just stopped. But I don't always do that. You know, I do tell him like later, bud, later, and then he walks away bummed out, and that's where that perspective is like, all right, you know, is this piece worth having my son bummed out and thinking dad's not giving him the time? Um, and I just got to stop and give him the time, you know. And I think that's where the biggest perspective is just having family time, and really what's important, you know, like the pieces I'm making right now, are based. I'm doing 2 in a row that are cancer organizations that I'm donating, partially donating. And they're all about that perspective. One's going to be called Little Golden Moments, and you know, it'll be a torso of just like whole bunch of little pieces, and you know, those will be kind of representative of pieces of memories and moments in time, and it'll progress into like I'm going to actually add gold leaf into it, and smaller pieces that are going to be those, you know, those memories or those moments that you really want to have that perspective on, you know.
Huh. And so you work from home, right? You got a shop at your house?
Yeah, I built a garage. I've got about 600 square foot of my garage, and I did tall ceilings so I can at least expand up, hopefully someday, into some taller pieces. But I was smart enough to detach it so I can work late, you know, and it kind of faces away from our house and faces away from our neighbors. So if I got the doors open, I can have my music going, and it makes it nice to have it here because I can come in for dinner and then turn around and, you know, go right back if the family goes to bed early, or you know, things like that. That's kind of how I kind of juggle my schedule around the family schedule, and I definitely don't have like set hours by any means, you know.
And so working from home, how do you leave the stuff you deal with at work in the shop and not bring it into the house with you?
When the shop's right in your backyard.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, it's really my happy place. I Right now I'm just loving it, and especially with the TIG stuff, like I'm a person that if I'm not challenged, I'm bored and I move on. You know, so I think the hardest part about it is not being consumed by what's so close that I could be working on in the shop and being present, you know.
Hmm.
I don't have enough work or commissions to be like, oh, you know, like right now I am. worried about these 2 deadlines. I kind of overbooked myself here, but I'll get it. You know, family's gone for 5 days. As soon as we get done, I'm going to go back out there. You know, I've been in my shop till 1 or 2 in the morning every night this week. And even last night could have went out with some friends and had some beers and so on. But I just enjoy it. I'm really enjoying it and really enjoying the opportunity. You know, it takes a lot of support. Mentally from the family, not let alone, you know, some financial aspect. You know, we made some changes to make this happen, or give myself the opportunity to make this happen. And you know, beyond that, like I said, I don't have the stresses as a normal job. I do get out and dirt bike. You know, that's kind of my outlet. And other thing, you know, I work on my vehicles and things like that. But I try to have that balance. You know, if I am having a rough day, I'll cut off early and I'll work on my scout for an hour or something, just to kind of clear my mind. Or and I say rough day, it's usually just a lack of getting what I want to get done. But there's a lot of trial and error. You know, these things right now, I'm making kind of a single plane eagle that has dimension, but it doesn't have the back side of it. And it would have been easier to make it full 360, I think, to be honest. You know, just trying to close the stuff in, and those are the challenges that I kind of face. Beyond like the money and the finance, you know, obviously everybody worries about money, and you know, nobody's killing it right now and with the economy and everything. So I try to just put those things aside, and when I come in, just be present, you know.
Yeah. And so you and your wife both work from home for yourselves, right?
We do. My wife travels at certain times of year more than others. Um, but she's in education. She teaches online and in person, which is why she travels. Um, so, you know, it's good. It's tough though. You know, like I'm on a push for a deadline here, and she had to travel last week, and my son, the summer programs were gone, and so on for the 4th week. So it just that's where it gets tough, because you're here, your kid's here, and you feel guilty about just leaving them aside. Or, you know, like the end of the week, I finally just told him like, hey, we're gonna have a fun day, and you know, we went skateboarding and went to the lake and went cruising around, and you just took that day off. But I'd worked, you know, till 1 and 2 in the morning the night before, so I don't. When I'm putting in 20-hour days or something, it's not. I don't feel bad about taking a morning off or an afternoon off to spend with my son and my family. You know.
So with both of you being self-employed, how does how does it work with like the regular benefits that an employee would have?
You buy them. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's where it's tough. I mean, I haven't brought any money in a period of time here, and some of it's, you know, there is some invoices out there, and you don't have that week to week check, and that's really the hard part, and I think where a lot of folks struggle to make these jumps, right? Um, you know, I'm constantly seeing my reserves, or whatever you want to call them, kind of trickling down. Uh, but I feel like if I go work for somebody else, I'm not giving my business 100% of the time, and I'm not going to get to where it's going to take that much longer to get to where I want to get to. You know, and we both support each other. We both have always been super supportive of, if you want to do a career path, even if it changes our financial situation. We take that opportunity and we support each other in that, um, which is a tough. You know, it's not always easy by any means, but it's just something that works well for us. And if you're not happy in your day job, just kind of like your last question, you're not going to be happy in your home life, you know, and you're going to bring that stuff home. And you know, we do both have that at times. But this kind of the same, you know, if it's a beautiful day in the mountains and we're both having a tough week and not getting where we want, you know, there's days we'll do like a day date while my boy's in school, or, you know, go to lunch together and just kind of pick at each other about what we're struggling with that week, and try to help each other on it. And it's a good combination. It's just, it also, you know, it's a tough, it's a struggle. There's a roller coaster there for sure.
Yeah. And you kind of, I'd say the easier route to take with art is like reclaimed metal art, like you were talking about. Like I've done a little bit about that, but you actually do sculpting and you shape the metal. So what is the tool that you value the most when it comes to forming or shaping the metal you want it to be?
I'd say it probably has to be a combination of that a little bit. The most things I use are a leather bag, a nylon mallet from like Harbor Freight, and I actually use body shaping tools just because I can't afford all the nice hammers I want to buy currently. Um, and and like an anvil, but and I basically use the horn, and I'm hitting it cold, which isn't, I've got a beat up old anvil, so I don't worry about you know, the condition of it. But those few things are pretty much the bread and butter um, of what I'm using. Now I'm starting to jump into some other tools and things as I go. I'm kind of just reinvesting back into my business fully to be able to make things a little quicker. But I really like the hand formed look, and I really versus like grinding and build up and grind back. The same, it's just I can build up and grind back anything. I feel like uh, with just my personality, the learning the techniques has been so cool to see how far I can push, a flat sheet of metal. That I just keep trying to push farther and farther because I just really enjoy it.
And so the clientele of metal art is probably pretty tough to find all the time. So are you able to stay constantly busy?
I'd say 90% of the stuff I make is just what I'm making because I want to make it, and they're all a progression. That's where I'm at right now. It's really hard to constantly be making 100 to 300 hour pieces and cross your fingers that like I really hope somebody wants this. Um, I got to get better about putting like the story behind it out there. I'm not very good about opening myself up on that. I've just started kind of this year opening myself up to who I am. And then, some of these stories behind them are super personal. So, yeah, it's tough. The metal is reclaimed as one crowd, and then high end detail is a whole different clientele. Um, and I don't do as much reclaim because I can't get it in the mountains, or if it is, it's rustic and it's expensive because people want to hang it on their cabin walls.
Yeah.
you know, um, but I'm trying to get out there all different ways. I'm doing the shows, doing this year, obviously, I made a big push to put myself out there broader than locally with the podcast and trying to get myself built up with, trying to get some manufacturer affiliations and things like that. And I think that'll bring different clientele. I do think that there's something to be said about like events and manufacturers because they have budgets for that kind of stuff set aside. Um, but that's like even steel. It's got this like thing against it. Some people think, oh well, it's just mild steel. Uh, but it's hard. Like now, I'm working with the bronze. The steel is much easier to manipulate than the bronze. Uh, but I'm slower on the TIG side. You know.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm trying to do some stuff now with it's exactly why I'm doing the bronze and the stainless because I want to see the perception of clientele. These will go to auctions of pretty high end clients or potential clients, and I've done 2 steel pieces the last 2 years for them, and I just want to see how it's perceived differently with some bronze, stainless, and then I'll do some gold leafing on it as well here.
Have you thought about going to FabTech?
Oh, I'm definitely going this year, and
Oh, nice.
I'll put it out there again. I'm like hounding ESOB on the back end, like big time. I threw him a picture of a octopus on one of their like multi-process machines, and like the tentacles all holding, you know, like a torch, a TIG torch, you know, a MIG, you know, all the stuff. Um, and I don't. They keep talking about it. They keep saying they're trying to figure it out in their budget, and but I don't have like a, you know, I don't have an agreement with them yet. I'm at the point where I think I might just make it anyway and like pull a cart around and just make them jealous that they didn't put it in their booth. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know if that's the way to go about it. You know, I'm kind of in a. I'm not. I don't want to seem aggressive or cocky to anybody, but if you don't just put it out there, it's not going to happen. And I figure, like, you know, FabTech's not a big clientele, but there are some potential clients. It's more like the peer-to-peer thing. Like you know, I just want to show my work to people that don't get to see it in person, and that's one opportunity.
yeah.
But I'm definitely going this year.
There's a lot of companies that have metal art in there. Is like Flame Tech. Every year they do something. They had a huge scorpion made out of scrap, or not scrap, like flame, like oxyacetylene torch components. They had a big scorpion. I know Austin. What he's making
A
something.
deer.
Is it a deer?
Yeah, he's making a deer. I think it's for them
He
this
is, yeah,
year.
yeah,
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 yeah. Flame.
which is looking rad. I mean, you know, same, like just total different thing. But you know, he even said it's like welding that stuff's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
yeah.
You
But
know,
there is a lot of companies out there that do have metal art. So if you walk around with that, there's going to be, more than likely there will be somebody that like, hey, can you make us this for this year to show off this, something like that.
that's kind of my mindset on it. You know, as you guys know, a lot of this stuff goes on in the background. I went on the FabTech site, and you know they have a list of people that are going to display and everything well ahead. So I just started emailing all those companies that I thought would have any sort of use for metal. Any, you know, I didn't get a response from any of them. The only reason I'm hitting ESOB up is because when Bo and Austin came, uh, I got a machine from them, and you know, I kind of promoted it to them as like, look, I'll show you how my progression can grow with your machine, um, and that's how you know, I had that connection or that right email that I needed to have, and I didn't have that with anybody else, so
Yeah.
I'm running with it.
So you were outside of St. Louis. Now you're in Colorado. You ever been in between in Nebraska?
I used to cover that whole area. When I sold abrasives, and I had covered 11 states when I was young, from the coast all the way up into the Dakotas. So I know Nebraska pretty well, and have been through a lot of cities and spent a lot of time in there. To be honest,
Huh. I'm from Grand Island, Nebraska.
I know I've had several customers out there, and honestly, Grand Island's like a nice little town way out there. I mean, it's definitely out there.
Yeah, I think it's the third biggest. It might be the fourth now.
Yeah, I would kind of do that loop from like Lincoln across the Grand Island. I forget the like all the way over into like I forget the town that's on the border there.
North Platte or
Yeah,
Sydney.
North Platte, and then even all the way like Norfolk. I actually had to like hunker down in Norfolk at one time for a storm, and they power went out, and we didn't have any power in the hotel, and they put us all in like the conference room. It was a super weird deal there.
Huh.
Huh.
That's kind of a good spot to be in a storm though, because that's the only school in Nebraska that offers lineman training, power lineman, and stuff like
Yeah, how
that.
nice.
But
Yeah, I mean, I even when I travel with my family, we only drive 2-lane highways. If I can avoid an interstate, I avoid it, and I just think that like you see so many of those cool small towns and history. You know, there's so much history that you forget about or don't realize where it was.
right.
Um, you know, and taking those roads, you come across all that cool stuff.
So, out of all the projects you've done, all the art pieces, what's the one you're the most proud of?
Probably my first bull skull. I called it Strong Like Bull, and I think that it's probably I'm probably most proud of it because it was the one that like opened my eyes the most. It was like super emotional for me because it was the first one I donated back to this organization that helped me, and I wanted it to have some meaning to it. And I went with this chicken scratch drawing and said I want to make you this skull with some succulents on it, and they kind of looked at the drawing like, oh, I don't, we're a high end auction, I don't know. And I just said, I'll get it there, just I don't know how. Let me try it. And it was awesome. It went for a really good price at the auction, and the people handed it back to me. So I have it hanging on my wall just next to me, like, which is amazing, right? Like, kind of shows you like there are good people out there. There are good organizations, and and they paid like 12 grand for it, like, and just
Jeez.
turned around and handed it back and said, you need to have this. And I think it was friends of mine that pooled together, but they knew how emotional it was for me. They knew how big of a push off that was. And like I've said, beyond that, each piece is just a stepping stone to something I want to do in the future. Um, but I think right now that's probably the one that, is the biggest to me. These two that I'm doing right now definitely are very much a part of my story. And they're going to have more meaning than probably any other pieces that I've made. Um, but we'll start there. I've got like 5 notebooks full of drawings, and some of the drawings are scaled to really huge, and some of the stuff's really small. So I'm just trying to learn and figure out the best ways to use my time and give a value to my customers at the same time too. So I'm not running away with these small details that some folks don't notice.
Right. How far are you from Denver? You're west of it, right?
Yeah, we're pretty western slope, Colorado. I'm about 4 hours. Depends on the day and the traffic, but I'm about 4 hours to Denver. But I mean, I'll go there. Like, I went to Atlas Metals because it's one of the 3 in the country that you can get this bronze from. So I like went there and back in a day, and I just used my time while I'm there. I stopped at like a foundry and another art studio just to meet some people, shake some hands, and see what other people were doing. On the same route.
Huh. Yeah, I'm flying to Denver later this month. My buddy, I don't know how much I can say, but he's in the Marine Corps and he's there for NSA training for a month.
Oh, nice.
So I'm gonna go visit him there.
He's not going to be down in Colorado Springs then?
Just Denver.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, I mean, hit me up. I go down that way and see friends all the time. I kind of same, perspective. Everything's far from me, and sometimes it's worth to drive 7-8 hours just to see somebody for an hour, because you don't know if you're going to get that opportunity for whenever it's going to happen again.
Right. I really don't like Denver. I try to avoid it, but I went there last year for a Broncos versus Jets game because my dad is a big Jets fan. So me and my brothers bought tickets for him and went to that.
Yeah, I feel like you're the same as me. I just don't city well. Like, I get anxious as I'm driving into it. Usually, I'll drive like the distance, and when we get to the city, we'll like swap, and my wife will drive like in the city, so I'm not like, you know. Like, uh, but yeah, I mean, we're going down for some concerts and things like that. But I usually stay outside the city or camp or something, so I don't feel like I'm immersed down there and like stressed for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
I think there's just certain people that are city folks, and there's folks that are not like us. I've heard you talk about Atlanta, and like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
lived
It's
in
awful.
Atlanta
Hate
when
it.
I was a really young kid. I lived in Atlanta, and I think I fought every single day. You know.
Yeah, Atlanta was nah. But
If I'm ever driving up to Nebraska or anything, I mean, I take the long way around. I go through Alabama and Arkansas and anywhere else but Atlanta. I don't care if it saves me 2 hours. I don't care.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna drive to Fab Tech just to like
No
road trip
way.
it. I want to like pick up some people on the way and maybe see some makers on the way. Make it kind of a fun maker road trip if I can get anybody to join. I mean, it's a long drive, but uh, I'm gonna be having an art piece to take anyway,
Oh
um,
yeah, that's true.
and I can take 2-lane roads all the way there. You know.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
really
you could.
you'll probably yeah, I'd imagine you'll be able to pick some people up. There's one guy here in Hastings, Nebraska. he makes custom knives and stuff, and I've been trying to connect with him to do something, but he's a hard guy to reach out to. He's not big on the phone, but he's my age.
Yeah, there's definitely some out there like that. I mean, spread the word. I mean, I'm trying to like, I'd like to figure out a VRBO or something down in Orlando, so we have like the same like a maker house or people in the realm just to get to know each other more than anything. Be able to hang out and barbecue or whatever when there isn't an event, which I know it's going to be crazy and busy, but I don't know. I just like to get to know people for who they really are. Even you guys, like, I'm sure you're slightly different off your podcast. You got to be a little more politically correct and watch what you're saying, right? Like,
We don't try too hard. We've had a
Yeah, we don't. We try, but we don't try too terribly hard.
yeah.
I feel you. I mean, I'm the same, but you know what I mean. Like when you're
No, we
just
get
sitting
you. Yeah.
after a couple cocktails, you talk about different stuff than what you do in the 30 minutes or an hour that you got on a podcast.
Yeah.
Um, more of the in depth and the non entertaining things about life.
And that's why Fab Tech's so great, because you get to meet all these people
man.
that you only talk to on Instagram, and you get to shake hands and finally put faces to names, and
It's a blast.
just a good time.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's 100% while I'm going to it. And, even jumped into a class in September over in Utah. Um, part of the reason I'm going there is because I know Kevin Stone's going to be in it, and it's world class sheet metal workers. So why not be in the place of the people you're trying to be and learn from them and absorb as much knowledge as you can. There's not a lot of opportunity for that, so it's kind of the same. I don't really have the money to be throwing at these things, but I'm all in on trying to make this happen, and I really don't want to get like a regular job again.
when me and Andrew went to Atlanta, I did not have the money for that Fab Tech. I was still I might have been in high school.
I don't think you had graduated yet, had you?
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I did not have the money to throw at that trip to Atlanta, but it paid
Especially
off.
that hotel room. That hotel room
Yeah,
fucked us.
because
Yeah,
we couldn't get a hotel at the time.
I remember you saying that because you're too young, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
but it was such an inconvenience how expensive that was.
I mean, it was the nicest hotel I've been in, but
Yeah.
I would not stay there again for the price.
No, yeah, but
I mean, I'm even looking for campgrounds near enough that I can just bring my tent to,
that'd
or
be fun.
it'll be
Oh
hot
yeah,
for me, but like
there's plenty of those.
the downside is I also, I know from my previous life, most of the networking, most of the connections you make are not at the convention. Like you got to be at the after stuff, you got to be intermingling, and that's where you kind of lose some of that when you're not staying at the hotel or something right on site. Um, but I have like a super strict diet, so I want to be able to cook and things like that too. So. Um, between money and stuff, I want to have a little bit of that convenience to keep myself on what I need to keep on.
I think the Airbnb or the Verbo is the way to go for sure. It's not only cheaper, but like you said, after show hours, after the after parties, you go back to the house, you sit down with the people you're with, and like in Chicago, I had some of the best conversations I ever had. Like James from SSP Weld and Johnny Snyder like taught me how to do my taxes in that
Nice.
in that trip. So I mean,
That's awesome.
just some of the best stuff happens at those, and it's cheaper, and you can all ride together or wherever. It's the way to
Well,
go.
if you guys don't have a place, keep me in mind. Like I said, I'm trying to find something that we can, even maybe just do like a impromptu barbecue and throw it out there to a few people, not like a big party or nothing, but you know what I mean? Just like you're saying, if there's not something going or there's 2 hours, like come to the house and let's bullshit and get to know each other.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have a blast, and I think it will pay off. Like, it will get your name out there, and I mean, it's just such a big show. They kind of push like the welders into an area, and like they don't try to contain us, but we all end up containing ourselves, talking to each other.
Yeah.
but I don't think you'd have a problem going around to the other halls. They have like the welding hall, the finishing hall, like powder coat and stuff like that, sandblasting and that, and then like these huge multi-million-dollar machines over here that like a lot of us avoid because there's no point in us going to.
Manufacturing type stuff.
Yeah,
Still cool to see though.
yeah.
See how they
Hundred
program the
percent.
robots and stuff.
There's like
I mean, I'm definitely going for the connections and, like I said, the handshakes. And if something else beyond that comes out of it, great. But I've got a couple tools that are on my list that I know that they make deals at shows, or at least I used to. Um, so there's a few things like that that I want to try to purchase as well. And hopefully that can move into a connection. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. Like you said, I haven't gone. I'm trying to really make a push to have a presence beyond my valley, and uh, I want to shake the hands and get to meet everybody, and like just see if that networking can happen. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it's still gonna be a fun trip.
I was gonna tell you to pack light, but then you're driving because you're gonna go home with, especially if they see your sculpture, you're gonna have too many abrasives.
Yeah, Brent, how many abrasives did you leave Atlanta with, Brent? Oh my gosh.
It was like 150 and like 25 chop saw blades.
He gave me a bunch of chop saw blades
Yeah,
because he couldn't use enough of them.
yeah. I still
Yeah,
have
I
one of
mean,
those on.
it's pretty valuable to have that stuff. I mean, one of my goals this year on my business plan was to eliminate most of my consumable cost. Uh, and I don't use a lot of consumables, but it helps, to be able to have those little things that you don't have to worry about, or have a couple of extras. And where I'm at, if I can't find it in town, then it's ordering and a couple days of waiting, and then you're switching gears. So you really got to be ahead of the curve. Even as I was welding the other night, I ordered some more silicon bronze at like 2 in the morning, because I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna burn through these 2 pounds pretty quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's mainly the last day is like when you want to hit those abrasives because they don't want to pay to ship it home or whatever or extra luggage. And then
I was that guy.
and then as for like show deals, like there's not as much as I think there used to be. My dad used to tell me because he's a salesman now, but he was a welder back then. He's been going to Fab Tech since before I was born, and he he said there used to be a lot more show deals. I was able to work one out and buy a brand new hood with Blue Demon, their panel V2, but I think that might have been because I know Brian. So
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll find out. I don't have any like big ticket things that I'm after, but like I need like a tungsten grinder and some of that, cuz right now I'm just so bad at TIG welding. I'll sharpen like 50 of them at a time, and they don't last as long as I hope.
tungsten grinders are so expensive though. Like
I just use a wheel right now and a drill, but I don't know. I can tell there's some inconsistencies in the scratch pattern on it, and when I arc up, you can tell pretty quickly if you got it right, or if it's a little off.
yeah, I just use a belt sander with a drill. I'll check it out
That's the
later.
same.
Yeah,
And I don't know if I probably need it. I just know that I need a different way that I'm doing, um, and it gets better. I'm as I'm doing these pieces and stuff. I'm getting better and better at it. But I'm trying to weld in every angle I can and every position, just to hone my skills and figure it out. It's funny how that silicon bronze sometimes will jump towards that arc. It'll fall onto your material, and it'll just jump right over, and it's crazy how much it'll jump right on that tip.
yeah. Have I mean, yeah, that client base is. Have you gained a lot of clients from donating the sculptures to that foundation? What is that? What foundation
No.
is it? Oh, really?
uh, yeah, well, there's local. One of them's called Tough Enough to Wear Pink, and one of them's called Living Journeys, and they actually give you like for me, they would set up like a hotel when I had to go to Denver for treatments or things like that. Or, you know, you send them an email and the next day there's a car sitting in your driveway with a gas card in it. The one organization get delivered us, you know, like produce boxes and food for like a solid year. Most of my stuff was during COVID, so it was a tough time for other family to help or friends to help just because even if people wanted to come see me, they were a little bit leery because I was in a real weak state, you know, physically anyway.
Mhm.
Um, and it is a good clientele, and I want to be able to give back. And I can't financially donate back, but I can give some of my time, and I do make a little bit of money on it, but I give them as much as they can. You know, I've been able to raise them almost 30 grand in 2 years, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it trickles. A lot of we're in a ski resort area, so there's a lot of second homeowners. So people come and go, and yeah, I kind of find myself repeating myself. But if you're not in front of people, they're not thinking about you. And especially with like metal art, that's a luxury. You know, people aren't looking at luxury items for the most part right now, and uh, my clientele shrank when I jumped into higher end pieces. I do still make, you know, like hand saws and inexpensive things, and you know, starting to do like hats to try to have opportunity for people to support me in other ways. Um, but I just really have I don't know, I'm kind of an all in type of guy. When I'm into something, I just go for it. And I have this goal of what I want to become and where I want to see my art go. And it's not simple plasma cut stuff. You know, like I said, those things are cool and most people think they're really cool, but I just don't get the fulfillment out of it. And that's part of what the cancer organizations like, you know, these two pieces are going to be like a solid month of work, and they're really good for me to grow emotionally and to figure out the best way to I have to talk about them in front of folks, and uh it helps me learn to articulate what my pieces are about beyond just, you know, a cool art piece. And I think that's the hardest thing. You know, you got to get the meaning and you got to get the people to feel the emotion, you know. And I, if I can make the folks cry with my story or about my piece, then that piece is going to bring good money. And I don't say that as like a crappy thing or but if I can get them to be emotionally tied to it, then people want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should I'll give you an email after this. I don't know if you've heard it on the podcast. I talked about it once, but our city does a sculpture walk, and they change them out every 2 years. So if you if you have a sculpture, you make whatever you want to make, and then there's a committee downtown. It's called Railside because it's right by the railroad. But and you submit your pictures and your letter about what it's about, and then the committee chooses from a bunch of sculptures from like South Dakota. Um, they like Nebraska artists, but you can, and it'll be displayed for 2 years, and you win like I think it's like $2,000, and they market it for sale the whole 2 years that it's up as well. I'll send you an email to the guy that runs the committee. That'd be something cool to look at.
Yeah, no, I'd be definitely interested in that, and that's kind of some of the stuff I'm learning that I didn't know I didn't know. You know, there's so many opportunities out there like that. And the first year or so, I kind of avoided those because I didn't feel like I was ready, and I was still experimenting, especially with like sealers and different patinas and things like that. Uh, but yeah, I mean, you just got to get ahead of them. You know, they want your piece like 6, 8 months ahead before, you know, to decide which ones they are going to use. Uh, and that's where those opportunities are tough because if they don't pick you, then you've got this piece and you got to cross your fingers that somebody else will buy it or approach another city about it, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, I've got a grant in my valley that I'm going to apply for next year for sure. I didn't this year. And I should have. You know, there's those things that you kick yourself about later. that you got to take. And, sometimes it's a judge of time versus money, or we've got a plan for the family that weekend. And usually after the fact, I'm like, damn it, I should have just did it and not second guessed myself. Or, I mean, I think I'm making cool stuff, but for myself, I don't really see it that way. I'm just trying to keep moving ahead and keep building. So, um, it's tough to put yourself out there like that. And even this year, I applied for a few shows, like the Coors Western show in Denver. I thought for sure I'd get into that show. And I definitely didn't. And it was like my number one show to go for this year. And even had some galleries recently tell me I need to like refine my stuff. And it's hard to understand that a little bit, because I'm thinking like, damn, like I'm not grinding, I'm actually hand shaping. Like I don't know how much more refined I can get. Like I don't want a smooth polished skull or a smooth polished look. I want it to have like that aged look and that handmade look. So it's just weird to know how to go from there after you don't get much response from them. But you can if you dig, or if you ask them like, "Hey, why didn't I get in?" Or could you give me some feedback? And I'm willing to take all that, and that's the only way I think I'm gonna get to those points of absorb it all, but yet still do my own thing. Just because one show or one customer doesn't like what I'm making, there's somebody else out there that hopefully will.
Right. Well, we got about an hour of good footage. Here's something we ask every guest before we end the show. What is your favorite genre of music to listen to while you work or weld?
Oh shit. I go from like hip hop to like the most raw country stuff you can get. I mean, this week I've been listening to Prof, which is like a rapper out of Detroit or something, to like Whiskey Myers, uh, Ward Davis. That's a tough question. I know you asked that, and I actually tried to think about it ahead, but I think it's just based on what I'm doing. If I'm sitting there hand cutting stuff, I'm listening to podcasts. If I'm grinding and under my hood, I've usually got more upbeat beat music or something. Actually, something I can sing to. I really like stuff that I can like sing with and know the lyrics. And you'll never see videos of that though.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, Codie. We'll put all of Codie's social medias, websites, whatever it may be, in the show notes. Everlast link in the show notes for the free of additional charge upgrade Nova Torch and foot pedal package, and Edge Welding Cups code BRINWELDS15. And Andrew?
And you can go on over to southernleatherworks.net for any and all custom welding hoods and leather products. Mr. Codie, we appreciate you coming on. We hope you had a good time as much as we did. And we really look forward to watching your journey if you drive all the way to FabTech from Colorado.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do it. And I really appreciate y'all's time. Thanks for having me. And once again, you guys are killing it, and keep going with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Codie.
Yeah, have a great day.